If you see a cuneiform tablet for the first time, you're not likely to identify it as writing, and you certainly wouldn't know which way up it went. When it arrived, it was a huge bang thing like that. It was a very explosive.
Deep inside ancient clay tablets from Sumer, archaeologists found a strange symbol that first looked simple and harmless. It was just one of many marks from one of the world's earliest writing systems. But when scholars finally decoded it, the meaning did not bring clear answers. Instead, it raised new and troubling questions. What makes it even more unsettling is how often this symbol appears in important ancient texts. So what does this Sumerian symbol really mean? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. Scientists wish they had never decoded this Sumerian symbol. For many years, archaeologists and researchers have been puzzled by a strange object that keeps appearing in ancient carvings from different parts of the world. At first glance, the object looks simple. It resembles a small bag with a handle. Some people say it looks like a bucket. Others compare it to a modern handbag. Whatever name is used, the shape remains surprisingly similar wherever it appears. That similarity is one of the reasons the object continues to attract attention today. The most famous examples come from ancient Mesopotamia. This was the region where some of the earliest civilizations developed thousands of years ago. Among these civilizations were the Sumerians, and later the Assyrians. Their stone carvings often show important figures standing beside sacred symbols. In many of these scenes, the figures are holding a strange object that looks very much like a small bag. The figures carrying these objects are not usually ordinary people. They are often shown as powerful beings connected to wisdom, knowledge, or religious duties. In many carvings, they are identified as apkallu. These beings played an important role in ancient stories and traditions. They were believed to possess special wisdom and knowledge given by divine powers. Because of this, everything shown with them is usually considered important. One detail that catches the attention of researchers is how carefully the object is drawn. The shape remains nearly the same from one carving to another. The object usually has a flat bottom. It also has straight sides and a curved handle. The handle appears large enough for someone to carry it comfortably. Even when the carvings were made by different artists and during different periods, the design changes very little. This consistency raises questions. Ancient artists often change the appearance of symbols depending on style or location, yet this object appears again and again in nearly the same form. Because of that, some researchers believe it may have been based on a real object rather than an imaginary symbol. The mystery becomes even more interesting when another object is considered. In many carvings, the bag-like object appears together with something that resembles a pine cone. The figures are often shown holding the pine cone-shaped object in one hand and the bag-like object in the other. This combination appears so often that researchers believe the two objects were connected in some way. The most widely accepted explanation is that the object served a ceremonial purpose. According to this theory, the bag may have held water, oil, or another sacred substance. The pine cone-shaped object may have been used to sprinkle that substance during religious ceremonies. Ancient texts describe purification rituals, and some scholars believe the carvings may be showing these activities. For many archaeologists, this explanation makes sense. Religious ceremonies were an important part of life in ancient societies. Sacred objects were often carried by priests or important religious figures. Since the mysterious bag is usually shown with powerful beings rather than ordinary workers or farmers, a ceremonial role appears possible. However, not everyone feels the explanation answers every question. Some researchers point out that the object looks practical. It has a handle that appears functional. It has a stable base that looks capable of standing on its own. These details make it appear more like a real object than a simple symbol. The discussion became even more complicated when similar shapes were noticed outside Mesopotamia. One of the most surprising examples comes from Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. This ancient site is more than 11,000 years old. That makes it far older than the Sumerian civilization. Some carvings found there appear to contain symbols that resemble the same uniform, bag-like shape seen thousands of years later in Mesopotamia. This discovery raised an important question. If the symbols are truly related, how did the same design appear in places separated by such long periods of time? The mystery grows even larger when researchers look beyond the Middle East. Similar shapes have been identified in some carvings from Mesoamerica. These cultures existed on a different continent and developed independently. There is no confirmed evidence that they had direct contact with Mesopotamian civilizations. Yet some observers believe the similarities are difficult to ignore. One explanation is known as symbolic convergence. This idea suggests that different civilizations can create similar symbols without ever meeting each other. A container used to hold something valuable or sacred is a simple idea that could appear in many places. According to this view, the similarities may be coincidence rather than evidence of a shared tradition. Even so, the debate continues. The object appears too carefully designed for some researchers to dismiss completely. Others believe it represents knowledge, power, or a connection between humans and divine beings. More speculative theories suggest lost technologies or forgotten traditions, but no physical evidence supports these ideas. An important fact remains: no actual object matching the carvings has ever been found. Archaeologists have discovered countless tools, weapons, containers, and household items from ancient civilizations, yet no artifact perfectly matches the mysterious bag shown in the carvings. Because of this, many scholars continue to believe the object was symbolic or ceremonial. Still, the mystery remains alive. Could the mystery of the ancient handbag be connected to an even greater mystery? Let's delve deeper. Göbekli Tepe and the site that changed human history. The mystery of the ancient handbag often leads researchers to another mystery that has captured worldwide attention. That mystery is Göbekli Tepe. Located in present-day Turkey, this remarkable archaeological site has changed the way many historians think about the origins of civilization. Before its discovery, experts believed they had a fairly clear picture of how human societies developed. The common belief was that people first learned how to farm. Farming allowed them to settle in one place. Once permanent settlements appeared, larger communities formed. Those communities eventually built temples, created organized religions, and developed complex societies. Göbekli Tepe challenged this entire sequence. The site first attracted attention decades ago, but its true importance was not recognized. In the 60s, researchers visited the area and noticed pieces of limestone scattered across a hill. They assumed the location was an ordinary burial site from medieval times. As a result, the site received little attention. Everything changed in 1994 when archaeologist Klaus Schmidt arrived to study the area. Unlike earlier visitors, Schmidt believed the stone fragments were much older than they appeared. He suspected that something extraordinary was hidden beneath the surface. Excavations soon proved him correct. As digging continued, archaeologists uncovered enormous stone pillars buried beneath layers of soil. These pillars were unlike anything expected from a society that existed more than 11,000 years ago. Some stood as tall as 16 feet. Others weighed between 7 and 10 tons. The pillars were arranged in large, circular enclosures. In the center of each enclosure stood two massive T-shaped pillars. Around them were smaller pillars facing inward. The arrangement appeared deliberate and carefully planned. What surprised researchers even more was the artwork carved into the stones. Many pillars contained detailed images of animals. Foxes, snakes, vultures, scorpions, and other creatures appeared across the surfaces. Some carvings seemed to show human features as well. A few pillars displayed hands, belts, and clothing-like details. These elements led some researchers to believe the pillars represented stylized human figures. The discovery created a major problem for traditional historical theories. The people who built Göbekli Tepe were believed to be hunter-gatherers. Evidence found at the site suggested they hunted wild animals rather than raising livestock. Archaeologists uncovered thousands of animal bones belonging to wild species. There was little evidence of domesticated animals or large-scale farming during the site's earliest period. This raised an obvious question. How could hunter-gatherers organize enough workers to build such enormous structures? For many experts, this question became one of the most important aspects of the site. Constructing the pillars required planning, labor, cooperation, and engineering knowledge. knowledge. Such efforts were once thought possible only after the rise of farming communities. Göbekli Tepe suggested something very different. It hinted that large groups of people may have gathered together for religious or ceremonial reasons long before agriculture became widespread. Some researchers believe the need to support these gatherings may have encouraged the development of farming itself. In this view, religion and social cooperation may have helped create civilization rather than simply appearing after civilization already existed. The mysteries do not end there. Several theories have been proposed to explain the carvings found at the site. Some researchers believe the symbols contain astronomical information. They argue that certain animal figures may represent constellations. Others suggest that the site functioned as an early observatory where people watched the sky and tracked important celestial events. More controversial theories focus on Pillar 43, often called the Vulture Stone. Some researchers claim the carvings record a comet impact that occurred thousands of years before the construction of the site. They connect the imagery to the Younger Dryas, a period of sudden climate change that affected the world near the end of the last ice age. Supporters of this idea believe the carvings may preserve memories of a catastrophic event passed down through generations. However, many archaeologists remain cautious. They argue that the evidence is not strong enough to prove such interpretations. Excavations in nearby locations have added even more questions. Sites such as Karahan Tepe have revealed similar structures and carvings. Together with other settlements in the region, they form part of a larger archaeological landscape known as Tash Tepe. What else could ancient civilizations have left behind years ago, and what secrets might still be locked inside them, waiting to be discovered? Let's learn more. The hidden clay records of ancient civilization and its mystery. Thousands of old clay tablets from ancient times are still kept inside museums around the world. Many of these tablets were found long ago and carefully stored in drawers and boxes. They were not lost or destroyed. They were kept safe, but most of them have never been read fully. The main reason is not because they are not important. The main reason is because there are not enough people who can read them. These tablets are written in a very old writing system that is hard to understand today. Because of this, many tablets have stayed untouched for many years. Big museums hold these tablets in different countries. One of the largest collections is in the British Museum in London. It has more than 100,000 tablets. Another large group is kept in the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. There are also many in Berlin, in Germany, in a museum that keeps ancient Near East objects. Other important collections are found in cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, Paris, and Istanbul. All these places together hold a huge number of ancient records from early human history. Each tablet is like a small message from people who lived thousands of years ago. Some tablets talk about trade, some talk about taxes, some talk about laws and government work, some talk about religion and prayers, some talk about medicine and how people tried to heal sickness, some talk about stars in the sky, some are letters written between people who lived in ancient cities. These letters show how they spoke to each other in daily life. Even with all this information, many tablets are still not understood. Some are too broken, some are too unclear, some are written in ways that are very hard to read. Because of this, a large part of ancient history is still locked inside these tablets. Only a small number of experts in the world can read this old writing. There are only a few hundred people who can truly understand it well. At the same time, there are hundreds of thousands of tablets waiting to be read. This makes the work very slow. One expert may spend months or even years trying to understand just one tablet. They must first find out what time it was written. They must study the signs on it. They must compare it with other tablets. Only then can they try to translate it. Because of this slow process, many tablets have stayed in storage for a very long time. Some were found over 100 years ago and still have not been fully studied. This is not because scholars do not care. It is because there is too much work and too few experts. The number of tablets is too large for the number of people who can read them. This has created a big problem. Important knowledge about ancient life is still hidden. Over the years, the few tablets that were translated have already changed what we know about history. One famous example is an old story about a great flood. This story is found in a long, ancient poem called the Epic of Gilgamesh. It was written long before similar flood stories in other religions. This showed that such ideas existed much earlier than people once believed. Other tablets showed that ancient people had laws and rules for society. They had systems for contracts and property. They understood how to manage cities and trade. This proved that organized life existed earlier than many historians thought. Some tablets also showed advanced math knowledge. They had ways of counting and measuring that were more advanced than expected for such an early time. Each time a new tablet is translated, it can change what we think about ancient history. It can add new facts or correct old ideas. Because of this, the remaining untranslated tablets are very important. Could it be that long before true writing began? Stay tuned for more. Ancient marks, meaning, and the mystery of early European civilization. The Vinca culture lived in Southeast Europe more than 7,000 years ago. They were part of a group often called Old Europe. These people lived in villages and early settlements across the Balkan region. They made many objects from clay, stone, and metal. Among the most important finds are small clay tablets, figurines, and pottery pieces that carry strange carved marks. These marks are known today as Vinca symbols. They have been found in many places, especially at sites like Vinca near modern Belgrade. People have studied these symbols for more than 100 years, but there is still no full agreement about what they mean. The symbols can look simple or complex. Some are single marks, while others are arranged in short groups that look like they could be messages. Because of this, some researchers think they might be a very early form of writing. They call this proto-writing. If this is true, then these signs could be older than the first writing system known in Mesopotamia called cuneiform. That would make them very important in human history. The Vinca people lived in a time before cities and before writing systems were fully developed. They made many small figurines, often shaped like human figures, especially women. These figurines may have been used in rituals or religious activities. Their society also had trade networks. They exchanged goods like stone shells, salt, copper, and gold over long distances. This shows they were not isolated but connected to other groups. Inside their settlements, there were workshops where people made tools, pottery, and other goods. This shows a structured way of life. Religion and ritual were also very important to them. Archaeologists have found special buildings that may have been used as shrines or places of worship. Some contain altars and arranged objects suggesting ceremonial use. The Vinca culture existed roughly between 5,500 BC and 4,500 BC. This was long before writing, and cities appeared in places like Egypt and Mesopotamia. After this time, the culture slowly declined and disappeared. The reasons may include climate change, disease, or pressure from other groups. Much of their knowledge and way of life was lost for thousands of years until modern archaeologists began digging in the 18 and 1900s. One of the most famous discoveries linked to this culture is a set of small clay tablets found in Romania called the Tartaria tablets. These tablets have carved symbols and were found with human remains and broken objects. Some researchers believe they were part of a burial ritual. However, there is debate about their discovery and condition, so their meaning is not fully trusted by all experts. Other similar objects have been found in Bulgaria and Greece, which suggests that symbol use was spread across a wide area. Most Vinca symbols are not found in long sentences. They usually appear alone or in very short groups on pottery or figurines. This makes them hard to understand. Some scholars have tried to group them into systems like writing, but this is not widely accepted. Writing is normally defined as a system that records spoken language clearly with grammar and structure. The Vinca symbols do not clearly do this. Because of that, most experts say they are not real writing. Instead, they may be proto-writing or symbolic marks that carry meaning without forming a full language. They could show ideas, objects, or identity, but not full sentences. Another idea is that they were used in daily life as marks of ownership or production. A potter may have used a sign to show their work. A group or family may have used a sign to show belonging. Some marks may have been used for counting or trade. Another strong idea is that they were used in rituals. The Vinca people made many figurines and objects that seem to have symbolic meaning. Some shapes, like snakes, may have represented ideas like life healing or change. These symbols may have had different meanings depending on the situation. Some were likely used in ceremonies and are buried after use. What do you think about the ancient Sumerian symbols? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for following this deep dive into the mystery of the Sumerian symbols and the ancient marks that helped shape early writing and civilization. If this helped you understand the story more clearly, like and subscribe. Click the next video to explore more stories. See you in the next one.